Thank you for joining us for the Kirby's performance of Storytelling with Fred Motley. This show is brought to you by the Person County Arts Council and tremendous support from Person County United Way. Please enjoy Storytelling with Fred Motley.
Storytelling time. Storytelling time. Na 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 na. Woo! Storytelling time. And now, our very first story can be told. And this story begins on the night that Max put on his wolf suit. When Max put on his wolf suit, he went all through his house causing all kinds of mischief. Finally, his mother said to him, "Max, you are such a wild thing." Well, Max looked at his mother and he said to her, "I'll eat you up." Well, Max was sent to bed without eating anything. And while he was in his room, don't you know, vines began to climb up his wall, over his ceiling, back down on the other wall until his whole room looked like a forest. And in that forest came a river. And on that river, a boat. Well, Max got in that boat. And he traveled for hours and days and weeks until he came to where the wild things are. And they had big teeth and big yellow eyes. And they roared a great big roar, and they showed their big teeth and their yellow eyes, and they roared at Max. And don't you know, Max did something extraordinary. Max went straight up to them. He looked them in their yellow eyes, and he said, "Y'all better be still." Ooh, they were so afraid because they had never, ever seen anybody as wild as Max. And so they decided that they were going to make Max king of the wild things. And then King Max stood with his hands on his hips, and he said, "Let the wild thing rumble begin." And he told them, "Raise your arm." And they raised their arm. He said, "Raise them high." And they raised them high. He said, "Raise your arms." And they raised their arms. He said, "Raise them high." And they raised them high. He said, "Now roar." And they roared. He said, "Now raise your arms." And they raised them high. He said, "Raise your arms." And they raised them high. He said, "Raise your arms." And they raised them high. He said, "Now roar." And they roared. And then King Max said, "Put your arms down, stop that roaring, go to bed. I ain't going to give you no supper." And so the wild things, they went to sleep. But what about Max? What about mean, he was the king of the wild things. But Max was homesick. He wanted to be back in his home where he knew that people really loved him too. And as Max was sitting there, he sniffed the air. And there was an aroma. He sniffed the air, and the aroma smelled just like his home. And Max knew then, I gotta go back. And so he woke up the wild things and he says, I gotta go. And the wild things said, please don't go. We love you so. If you stay here, we'll eat you up. But Max said, no, I gotta go. And so Max got back in the boat, and he sailed through weeks and days and hours until he was back in his own room. And he sniffed the air, turned his head, and there, on his night table, was his dinner. And it was still hot. And so, we have gone to where the wild things are and back to Max's to repeat after me, just the way I do. Oh, Hogan Goat was a feeling fine. He ate my red shirt right off the line. I took a stick and beat his back, then tied him to the railroad track. A speeding train was a drawing nigh. Old Hogan Goat was about to die. He let an awful shrill of pain, coughed up my red shirt, and flagged that train. Old Hogan Goat, old Hogan Goat, old Hogan Goat. And so, our stories have come to an end. So something new can